Welcome to Soul Food and Fuel for Your Life. I'm your host, Kenton David Bell, and this show in general is talking about deliberate creation and manifestation, how we deliberately create our life, how to do it in a way that is also in alignment with, call it our essence, maybe you want to call it our soul, our reason for being here. You know, you can ask anybody who's successful in life, and what I mean by successful, I don't necessarily mean fiscally. Now, of course, that usually goes along with success, but what we're really talking about here is the expression of who you are and what it is that you came here to do as a human being. Now, when somebody is truly in their alignment, I'm going to call it their alignment, or they're singing their soul song, maybe you might want to use that term. They're in the alignment with the reason that they came here, their purpose. And believe it or not, we all have purpose, really. We have our own specific purpose that begins to unfold over our lifetime. I spoke about purpose just in the last podcast. Purpose is something that really gives us meaning, direction. You could say it is the heading that we set on our compass for life. Now, when we don't have purpose, often we're flailing around and not feeling really great about things and maybe feeling lost and confused. But with purpose, we become clear. We set our course, we stick our rudder in the water of life, and we begin that journey of our destiny, of what it is that we're here to have that experience of, that I personally believe is kind of mapped out before we incarnate into this life. For instance, my purpose is doing what I'm doing here. Using my voice, my energy to help elevate others, to help people transform and find their purpose. I'm here to help people find, I would call it your soul essence and destiny, as opposed to the social imprinting that all of us receive when we are, we're all born into this world. We have parents, they imprint on us. From their parents, they were imprinted upon. And the cycle goes on, whether it's helpful, healthy, or not. This is what happens. So in the work we do here, we help clear that stuff. We help bring clarity in and clear that stuff. Second of all, what we do is we bring into alignment your soul's energy, really. We all have an aspect, a non-physical part of us that is quite amazing. And in certain ways, you could even say that this aspect of us is kind of enlightened as well. So we also have this human part, which, we're here to be human. So there's nothing wrong with that. That is more the animal, really. We're predators. We're animals in many ways. We kill and eat other animals. A lot of people do. And I'm not here. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. I lean towards that, but I still eat a little bit of fin, very now and then hoof, but mostly stick to fish these days. But that's not the point here. That's not what we're talking about. And by the way, I'll just make one more comment on that. It is my belief that on the soul level, that when we do consume meat, that there is how to say it? I don't know if contract is quite the right word, but it's soul contract for that animal to be giving us substance. I personally now and then will have some elk. Elk meat is incredibly good for me. I don't know why. It just really resonates and agrees with me. And I always bless the spirit of the elk when I eat elk meat. And I could feel I'm going to say regalness. There's something about elk that are very regal. and its willingness to give that to me. So I literally have these spiritual experiences when I eat elk meat, for instance, and I feel like I'm in communion with the animal itself that has given its life for that purpose. So often we are unconscious, and this is another, I'll segue back into the mainstream theme here today, which is about not only finding and discovering our soul essence, but actually beginning to be able to discern between what is your imprinting from family, from society, school, so on, and what is your innate nature, your soul's, your non-physical self that has all the wisdom of the world in it, really, of the universe. Everything you need to know, you can actually access through your connection with your soul, your essence. Now, you heard me use the word destiny a few times. And personally, I believe in destiny and free will, which we'll probably get into talking about a little bit later. I remember, I'm going to misquote. It's this is kind of how I remember it from Paramahansa Yogananda. Paramahansa Yogananda, many of you know, if you don't, you can look him up. Autobiography of a Yogi, one of the best books ever written. And, or I should say almost channeled. It's an incredible book. Steve Jobs carried a dog-eared copy in his back pocket all the time. I believe it was at his funeral memorial service. Everybody was given a brown paper bag with a copy of that book in it. And it was one of my favorite books I've read in my life. It had a huge, profound effect on me. But I used to live in LA area, and there's in Malibu, those of you who know it, a place called Lake Shrine. And this is an area in kind of busy Malibu that is this incredible carved out sanctuary that has this incredible, just a beautiful sacred energy in the middle. Well, not quite in the middle of LA. It's in Malibu on the coast there. But they have a lake, and you can walk around the lake. And as you do, there's little signs with the sayings of Yogananda. And it goes something like this. It's paraphrase it, but it's basically says that the only good use of will is finding God's will. Or we could even translate that to lower will versus higher will. I'll use the term God, source, universe fairly interchangeably. GSU, sometimes I'll call it. It sounds like a university, but and we are in a university in many ways. This is a training ground in so many ways for the higher levels that we are going to move into as we graduate from here. So if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Go clap your hands over there if you are happy. And if you're happy, probably it's because you are to some degree in alignment with your essence and your purpose. Now, in the fifth layer of the auric field is what we call the etheric template or blueprint. Many healers, clairvoyant types will refer to it as a blueprint. And that is our day-to-day blueprint format for how we kind of move through life. Now, if you want to go through a transformation, expand your life, and truly expand it, not just a bigger version of what you're doing now, but what we mean is an expansion in consciousness, a greater view, playing a bigger game, all of that. That comes, part of the expansion is the expansion of this blueprint. This is also a will center, by the way. The fifth layer of the field correlates with the fifth chakra, which is communication, spoken and unspoken. It is high creativity. It is also a will center. And this is also where self-realization cannot begin to occur until one is familiar with the will center, actually, the fifth layer and the fifth chakra. So many think that, oh, I'm in the heart, this is where maybe self-realization comes from, or enlightenment. Enlightenment doesn't come till you're really familiar and living in the seventh chakra, the crown chakra, really, and understanding what that means. It's not just like, oh, okay, I'm going to pop up to the seventh chakra and start living there, even though that is becoming more and more possible and likely with the frequencies on the planet at this time. But you don't necessarily want to be enlightened right away. We're here to enjoy life. And when you are fully enlightened, your only focus is on God, source. You're just looking at just merging back. So you really don't have much interest or traction in what we call the real world. So it's very difficult for an enlightened being to have a job, 9-to-5 job, for instance, or even a self-realized person, which comes in the fifth layer. That's where that begins to show up, is the realization of self. The self, what does that mean? There's a lot of ways you could look at it, but it really means knowing thyself in a very deep way, accepting a lot of aspects of self, including having done, I would say, the majority of your shadow work by that point. And then the rest takes place on the journey between the fifth and the seventh. So this is a journey that we're on, whether you believe that, some of this sounds maybe like Eastern thought, but this is how it works. This is really, some of this is what we're talking about really is the mechanics here of consciousness and spiritual human evolution. Now, I've been doing this work for a long time. I had a very sudden, abrupt, powerful, very unique, I've learned over time, Kundalini awakening, a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. And the next thing I knew, there was an Egyptian god showing up nights in my living room and studying. It was Thoth, the Egyptian god Thoth in Egyptian mythology. He's the one who supposedly brought magic and writing to the planet. And I have a strong affinity with a magician energy as well. And Thoth is also the same being that is Hermes, Mercury, Merlin, and a few others. I can't remember all of them right now. But throughout history, we have these archetypal energies that show up at different times. At the same time, we also have, like to give you another analogy, we also have what we call priesthood, brotherhood, sisterhoods, nunhoods that also show up at different times that have held the energy, especially since, probably about 13,000 years ago in the time of Egypt, beginning back with the Tut Brotherhood, which would hold the frequencies of source, of God, when we were in our deepest, darkest times. And that was when we were moving away from the center of the galaxy. Now we're just start arcing back towards the center of the galaxy. So the whole journey takes about 26,000 years. And we've just started arcing back. So for the last approximately 13,000 years, we've been kind of asleep. And every system we have on the planet has been built on the premise of that consciousness. So what we're seeing right now is that falling apart, the dissolving of these old institutions, things that we've learned how to count on, are no longer going to be count-onable. And this is a very important reason alone, and I would say probably the number one, for really getting in touch with your soul's essence and your connection to your source. Because as you do, you become able to begin to navigate your own way and create your life in a way that is right for you. We're going to see many, many, many institutions that have supported people for a long, long time falling apart. Right now we're in hopefully the tail end of this pandemic, but I'm an optimist. I'm not a pessimist, but I have a feeling we're going to see one thing after another for a while that look like crises, where our culture, our society is very likely going to break down in many ways. The question is, are we going to be able to pick ourselves up and move on? Well, a lot of things are changing right now, and it's a better time than ever to really create and blaze your own path in your alignment with what you came here to do. And what does that mean? Well, in a lot of ways, that also means that we are following our own dreams. We begin our own businesses. We begin to do that thing that we've always dreamed about, but always thought, oh, I don't have time, or I can't afford it, or that's just ridiculous. There's been no better time than to do what seemed in the past to be the ridiculous, which is actually the smart thing to do now. One of my favorite recent quotes for myself, I can't remember where I heard it, but God, I loved it, is ignorance is unlimited. Knowing is very limited. So I find myself, it's another version of beginner's mind. But I love standing in ignorance these days. And it's funny, you should see people's look on their face, or I work with people over the phone often, so I don't see their face, but I can feel it. They're saying, what? This guy I'm going to for coaching, for help and helping in my health career, whatever it is, he's talking about standing in ignorance. Who is this guy? The point is the moment that we think we know something, we've blocked out many other versions of that possible situation, scenario, crisis, whatever it is that we're in that moment. It becomes very limited. So the key here, and this is where we develop a new flexibility, malleability within ourselves to move through these times of great transition. Standing in ignorance often is the place where wisdom comes through. And there's a huge difference between wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge, in many ways, in my opinion, can be very even harmful, useless and harmful. Now, I'm making a very big statement there. Wisdom, however, is something that will tell you the truth. It is the truth, and you know it down into the cellular level. And the formula for wisdom is knowledge plus life experience distills down into wisdom. So, if you have these great ideas, whatever, great ideas are great, but are they wise ideas as well? Here, I'll give you an example. And once again, here, I don't have a whole lot of prejudice here, but I think that this is an issue that is becoming more and more of an issue in our world, our culture today. So we live in the age of tech, big tech now. We spend hours and hours a day, if not all day, on our devices. We're working with programs and what have you, apps, doing our thing, work, play, social media, all of this. Now, one of the things about this is a lot of these people writing these apps are, let's say they're in their 20-somethings. Great to be young, making a lot of money, love that. But they haven't had the life experience that comes from living life. You only can have that from living life. They might be smart as heck. They might be geniuses, but they don't have the life experience that distills into wisdom. And without wisdom, well, if you really think about it, without wisdom, what are we doing here? It's actually wisdom, the building of wisdom, the living into wisdom is actually one of my most favorite experiences here. And so we have these teams and teams of not fully developed human beings who spend a lot of time right there at the screen. Now, I'm making a generalization, and it's not true for everyone, of course. but they spend all that time in front of the screen, and there's a big human soul, essence, heart aspect that's left out of it. And this is where we're going to start to see, we're already seeing problems with it. Personally, think about social media. How much has social media helped your life, really? You know, I'm not a big social media fan. I use it now and then to check in on friends occasionally. I use it for business more than for pleasure, more than being social. Personally, I see it doing the opposite almost of what it claims. I don't believe it's actually bringing us together. That no, there are certain groups, and those are great, and I'm part of some of those, and I love those. But in many ways, it also creates more separation because we're not interacting on a particular level that we used to before social media. Remember, I'm 59 years old. When I grew up, you go out and you play with the neighborhood kids. That was your socializing. Now the kids are just on their phones and computers. And we are evolving that way, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but I do think that there's a little bit of imbalance there. We need to bring our essence into these aspects of our world and our culture as we are building them. And I don't think enough thought has been put into this. For instance, I know that I can't remember the name of the group, but I believe it's in Northern California, Silicon Valley area, where there's a group that worships AI, artificial intelligence, as if it is a god. Yeah. And once again, maybe they know something I don't know, but to me, that gets a little scary. I get a little freaked out when I hear this. Something in my body starts to shut down, and like, ooh, that could be, what we see in all the movies, Terminator, Matrix, all of those movies that basically where AI takes over. And there's some smart people like Elon Musk who actually is a little concerned about AI as well. I think Mark Zuckerberg maybe is not concerned enough. Now, those are my own personal opinions. But we come back to our destiny, our soul's information. How do we begin to discern what is the soul, the essence of who we are versus the imprinting? And I'm not saying imprinting's wrong. In many ways, it's what's kept us alive. It's how we've survived all this time. Usually, not always, but usually the imprinting is the louder voice. Usually the imprinting is the shoulds that we come across in our lives. And you know what happens when we should all over ourselves. The soul's essence is a much quieter, subtle voice. That's our destiny, what we're here to do. Now, free will and destiny coexist. So you can fight your destiny by, personality, ego, imprinting getting in the way, or you can embrace your destiny and use your free will to align with your higher will in order to get there quicker, more easily, with grace and ease, probably a much higher level of success as well. We are moving out of a time, for instance, when money is still going to be important. There's going to be more money in this world than ever before soon. But money is going to start taking more of a back seat as far as importance. If you think about it, money has been our God in many ways. People go to work as if they're enslaved by it. 9 to 5, they go to work paying for a house that they barely spend any time in a car that they're paying, in traffic for God knows how long their commute is each day. For what? And there's a lot of people waking up around this in the pandemic right now. It's not about people not wanting to work. It's about people wanting to find meaning, wanting their purpose to unfold for them. They're wanting to live a more meaningful life. And then we see the others that are hanging on to the old. You can never go back. So either you're moving forward or you're stuck in the past. The more you get stuck in the past, the more miserable you're going to be. And we see that in our politics. even the MAGA, I've talked about this before, Make America Great movement. That's all about hanging on to the past. That's not moving forward, no matter what people say. And look at the anger in the people who really support that. Now, if anything, I'm probably more of a libertarian than any other political party. I was raised liberal. I've liked many of the Republican presidents. Personally, I've done well during them. I understand their thinking often. The Liberal Party has a problem too, so I'm not picking on one party or the other here, just to be really clear. But in a certain way, we pay, what I just said about politics, in many ways, we kind of play politics with ourselves between the imprinting and our true essence coming through. I know when I'm living my essence, there's the magic, the miracle, whatever you want to call it, the flow, the groove, the zone. I'm in it all. I love being in that place. I find myself moving away from the term calling myself a spiritual healer. And even though I have spent decades calling myself that and doing exactly that work, I find that very limiting now, that moniker. So I find myself working more and more with mainstream people wanting to manifest their big dreams and desires. I'm finding more and more of my clients are showing up that way because that's the work I want to be doing. Another way to phrase this is, instead of fixing something, why not just recreate it the way that we want it to be? So, what is your destiny? What is your imprint, your imprinting that you grew up with, and what to do about it? Well, the first thing is to discern the two. The imprinting is, oh, yes, you're going to grow up, go to school, go to college, get a job, have 2.4 kids, blah, 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 and retire and die. That's kind of a very shallow, generalized idea of what we're talking about here. Your destiny, your calling, the thing that you must do, is deep inside you and usually buried in most people. It's scary to be able to say, hey, I'm not going to do what everybody else is doing. It's scary to say, hey, I'm going to go out and work for myself. It's scary to do something new that the rest of the people aren't doing, to be the first one. But I'll tell you, it's even scarier being the last one doing something old. So what is your destiny? What is your soul's energy telling you to do versus what your imprinting is? Think about it. I mean, this is something that takes a while to really figure out, I think. And our purpose is always unfolding. It's not like one day we get our purpose and that's it. It's something that's we're always gaining a sense of our purpose. That's the healing key for the fifth layer. Always gaining a sense of purpose. So what is your purpose? What is it that you're here to do? And it's never too late to start that, especially now. What I would recommend would be get a piece of paper, fold it like just a regular print, piece of printer paper, fold it in half or put a line down halfway. On one side, make a column. This is my imprinting. The other side, my soul's destiny. And begin to see, write down just to the best of your ability. You're not going to get it all right at first. It's okay. This is an unfoldment for all of us. But try this and begin to see the difference between the two. One of the things is probably what was imprinted in you is probably not going to really like so-called float your boat. You'll say, okay, yeah, this is fine, or it's cool, I'm lucky to have this, but it's not going to give you that electricity, that spark of inspiration. Your destiny, however, will probably have certain qualities that it will give you inspiration, and it might scare the crap out of you as well. My guess is most of you will have that experience. It will align and resonate, and it will scare the crap out of you. You know why? Because one of the hardest things any human being can do is to begin to step into their power, which is their destiny. When we begin to step into our power, it is scary as hell. It's more scary than anything else, really. Except for at the end of your life, when you're on your deathbed looking back, that's really scary if you haven't lived into your soul's destiny. Think about that as you write this list. How do you want to feel on your deathbed? Do you want to feel as though you've accomplished something like deeply intrinsic within yourself, that with great deep satisfaction on the soul level, on a non-physical level? Or is it just about, boy, I made a lot of money, spent a lot of time at work, hated my job, but made a lot of money? I'm giving you examples. But start thinking about this. We're in a time of change right now. It's never been better in all of written history, really. It's never been better than right now to go out there and to follow your soul's destiny. And when we start to take that journey, I have yet to see one person who begins that journey who falls on their their face. The universe will support you. Things begin to work out. Synchronicities begin to happen. And pay attention to those two different voices in your head. One tells you that you should do this because that's what good humans do. And the other part of you that feels inspired and awed by, hey, what if I went off and became a ballet dancer? Or what if I became a National Geographic photographer? Or what if I followed my desire to become a musician or an artist? Or to do something like Kenton does, like I do. We all have our own gifts, our own destiny. And it's up to us to live that. And once again, it's never been a better time. Thank you for listening to me today. I am your host, Kenton David Bell, and this is Soul Food and Fuel for Your Life. I'm going to take just a short little break here to talk about, I'm going to shamelessly promote my work for a moment. I'm getting to the point now where have been very busy off and on for years, and I sometimes purposely slow that down. But I'm on a big upswing right now, working with a lot of some of the names you would even know, they're public names. Everything's always very confidential, of course, but movers and shakers, people who are excited about building their success in all ways, shapes, and forms. Not just the bottom line, but having some greater meaning behind it and what they're doing and a message and making the planet a better place. People who are consciously waking up and really want to make a difference in all different kinds of walks of life. I work with a lot, and more it seems in the entertainment industry keeps showing up more and more, which is something I used to be an actor. So anyhow, let's see. Let's get to the point. My point is I am running out of personal slots, really. So if you do want to work with me, if you're not working with me right now, and my fees are going to be going up, and I really love giving people the opportunity to work with me at an affordable price. That's changing rapidly due to the fact that I'm getting busier and busier. That's success. And we only have so much time. And so we learn how to use it wisely. We use it with people who really, 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 really want the work. So right now I'm going to be running a special just for probably till the end of February, let's say the March 1st, and keeping it at $200 an hour. That's my normal rate, but that's going up very quickly here, probably doubling. So if you want to work with me, you want some breakthrough in your life, I highly suggest you call me and I do interview you to see if we're a match. So if you're interested, give me a call, 928-274-2026, or email me at kentondavidbell@gmail.com. Thank you, and we will see you next time here on Soul Food and Fuel for Life. Have an awesome day. Aloha.